Benoit and his family, an attorney for the Wrestling League, says that days before the killings, Benoit and his wife argued about whether he needs to stay home more to take care of their mentally disabled 7-year-old son. Police believe Benoit had strangled his wife and suffocated his son before hanging himself with a weight machine cable. The search for motive continues, and now allegations that the murders could be a result of roid rage. Joining us now, former professional wrestler and instructor, Nightmare Ken Wayne, and the host of At Large, Geraldo Rivera. Welcome you both. Ken, is this about steroids or is this about something else?
I believe it's about something else. And here's the reason I say. When I first heard about the roid rage, I thought, well, you know, it's possible that Nancy's death was a result of roid rage. But usually in roid rage, what happens is you have an outburst, and it doesn't last, in my mind anyway, long enough to actually bind somebody's hands and feet and then strangle them. To me, that's forethought. That shows forethought of malice to me. I mean, that's the way I see it.
Did you know him at all?
No, I didn't know Chris. I knew Nancy.
And what can you tell us about her?
She was just a sweet girl. I mean, you know, just a loving person. You know, just somebody really nice to know. You want to sit and talk to her. I mean, she was just a really, really nice person.
You never know, Geraldo, what goes on inside a family or inside somebody's mind, and people are going to want to attribute to steroids, and yet they had trouble, you know, they had a difficult life with their son, and probably some disagreements about his time home, traveling. It's a tough life.
It's a tough life, but I just want to address something that Ken said, and with all due respect, I don't know Ken, but I do know that the WWE and all of these wrestling federations are trying their best now to put distance between this tragic event and steroid use. Steroid use is one of the dirtiest, darkest secrets of professional wrestling. Wrestling now characterizes itself as entertainment. So they have lagged woefully behind even the pro sports, which have been woeful in their own enforcement of steroid abuse, as we know. There's only one reason he was only 5'10", he weighed 230. There's only one reason they bulk up like that, and it's because of really chronic steroid use. They're investigating, as far as I know,
I have taken exception with that. I mean,
did Benoit do it by doing weights, or did he do it by getting male testosterone hormones? And you know, he's implicated now in a big federal lawsuit and criminal prosecution of some suppliers from Florida. So it could have, I think, roids definitely played a role. Now, what else happened in the drama of this poor family with the retarded child and the stresses of that? And also, Nancy was, Ken says, a nice woman. She probably was a nice woman, but she was part and parcel of the wrestling world. She met her husband with a carefully scripted romance.
You're deciding it's
that was written by her husband.
You're saying it's the wrestling world that caused this, and
yes, it was by Kevin Sullivan. That's correct.
Right. But the idea that was it the wrestling world that did this, or was it other things we can never define?
Well, the thing I want to address, you brought up the point about steroids. Yeah, I agree. Yes, I'm sure he was on steroids, and probably there's a difference between use and abuse. I'm sure he abused them. But the thing is, I don't care how much you abuse steroids. If you're not in the gym lifting weights, they don't work.
What they get on the sides is side effects. Ken, that's not the question. First of all, have you used steroids?
Me, I did in the early 80s. Yes, I did, sir.
Did you ever experience what they call roid rage? Did that ever happen?
I sure did.
All right, and how intense is it, and how real a phenomenon is it?
Oh, it's very real.
So you go off on the handle, you lose
think irrationally. Now, when I did steroids, I was married to another woman, my ex-wife, and one of the things I told her, because I knew this would happen, because I'd been warned of it. Of course, we didn't know about steroids then what we know now with the other medical side effects, but the roid rage has always been a known. And one of her things was, if I started acting irrational, she was to say to me, at a distance usually, is that the steroids or is that you? And most of the time, yes, it was the steroids.
Ken, on the one hand, you're dismissing the possibility that it could be roid rage here. You're admitting that it's real and that you experienced in your life, and you tell your wife, hey, when I start acting like this, get away from me.
I tell her to ask me, is I got something to be angry about, or is it the juice?
Ask him what,
because that was able to bring it to my mind.
What was Benoit's nickname, Ken?
He had several.
Wasn't his nickname the Canadian Crippler?
That is correct.
Didn't he get that nickname because he picked some guy up, turned him over, and smashed his head, breaking his neck? Isn't that what happened?
No, I'm not sure. I have no idea about that.
All right, but the reality is this is a dirty little secret.
It is.
It's not even a secret, Geraldo. I mean,
it's not a secret at all.
It's obvious.
But, well, you know what it is? Wrestling has gone through a metamorphosis.
Correct.
In the 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was considered a real professional sport. And then when it was exposed that it was scripted and that we knew who would be the winner, then they changed it to entertainment to avoid some of the regulation that was being placed on professional sports. When it went into the world of entertainment, there was absolutely zero regulation. That's how you saw these gigantic creatures being created.
All right, but wait a minute.
Zero regulation is not correct in all states. New Jersey, for example, has a real strict commission. There's where the regulation was.
But Ken, the bottom line here is if we know this is a real phenomenon, we know there's widespread use, we see the results, there's a possibility it's connected to this particular case here, then the question becomes, why don't we regulate it more, knowing that most of these guys are doing this? That raises a good question, doesn't it?
Well, my opinion is, yes, I think you should get rid of the steroids out of all professional sports. I mean, it's come such a prevalent thing across the board. I mean, even in high school, kids are trying to take steroids.
All right, Ken, we thank you, Geraldo. We're going to stay with us for our next segment. We check in first with Greta Van Susteren telling us what's coming up right after Hannity and Combs at 10 Eastern. Good evening, Greta.